I was shocked at how many Jazz fans, Jake, were in full-on panic mode last night after the loss in Dallas. And the reason I say I was so shocked is, didn't this Utah Jazz team handle their business in Big D by getting a split? Because that's all you needed to do was go to Dallas and win one game.
Yeah, I think traditionally that's all you needed to do, but I think Jazz fans were expecting 2 wins and then 2 wins at home, and I think they were expecting that because Luka's out, and they felt like that this Dallas team couldn't contribute and couldn't keep up with the Jazz, but you saw last night, and really in both games, like we told you, that Dallas was going to play in transition a lot. I think the difference last night was that Dallas made a real concerted effort to shoot a lot of threes and up their chances, and you saw what took place. I mean, I think the game that Kleber had was exactly what the Mavericks needed him to do. I look at Jalen Brunson. We told you about him. We told you he's capable of putting up a 40-point game, and that's exactly what he did. And I think that Dallas is this team right now that understands that they're the underdog in this series. They don't have much to lose, and they're just going to play their absolute heart out and play their best game possible. And let's see what happens. And last night that resulted in a win. In game one, that resulted in a loss. So I think right now with where this series is I think if you're a Jazz fan, it is mandatory that you win both home games and you take full control of this series, because I think we can all agree that there will be a Luka sighting in this series at some point before it's over. It's just a matter of when that is. Is that in elimination games? Is that in game 3? I'll be really curious to see what the plan for Luka is. So overall, I don't think there's a reason to panic. I do think, and we're going to get to this, I do think there is a lot in the Donovan versus Rudy conversation
Yeah,
as far as
for
this
sure.
series has gone. But I think, the one big surprise I had last night as far as the game is concerned was the adjustments that the Jazz rolled out. I couldn't believe that they were running sets for Rudy on the block. I couldn't believe that that if you were going to be intentional about getting Rudy the ball, that it wouldn't be extremely situational. Again, with him with 2 feet in the restricted area with his guy sealed. That's what I would be trying to do. Because again, you see last night what happens when Rudy's on the block. So I was a little bit surprised by that. And I think as far as Donovan is concerned, another game and another fourth quarter to forget. I think that Don just has got to figure out these end game situations and why it's a struggle for him. That's definitely something that he needs to work out individually.
That the Rudy Gobert thing is a big deal. I think Rudy's impact on this ball club is usually understated. But when it comes to Rudy, one of the things we've talked about so often on this show is the mental impact that he has on this team. And this narrative that he somehow got screwed out of the Defensive Player of the Year, I think there was a hangover effect to that conversation. And I think when you are Rudy Gobert, you are always going to be controversial, if only because of the contract that you carry. But it is irresponsible at this point to be having him post up on Maxi Kleber and throwing him the ball in a situation where he has to dribble and make some kind of move to get the ball up to the rim. And of course it was a turnover. Of course it was. And I don't know why we would expect a different result there. That's what was so surprising for me. The irresponsibility in trying now to force the ball to Rudy Gobert. You're not the team missing your best offensive player. All you have to do in this series is do who you are. Do you. Do what you've always done. How do you come out in that game last night and only shoot, I think, 29 threes? How is that even the case? How are you getting very little drive and kick in this series right now? Because you're trying to do things you've never done. And I think, frankly, Jake, I think it's a recipe for disaster for the Jazz.
Yeah, I don't know who thought it was a good idea to feature Rudy on the block or to go away from what's working. I think that if we learned anything out of game one, it was that Bogdanovich can be a source of points for you, man. I mean, Bogdanovich whether it's in the paint or shooting the three. He had a great game one, and obviously he contributed in game two. But I when I watch these games, I'm not even necessarily looking at the box score. I'm more looking at the impact on the game. Like as an
Yes.
example, Maxey is coming off the bench and gives him 25. And Jazz fans were having nightmares about Terrence Mann in the corner because it was the same thing all over again. So I think that if you're the Jazz offensively, you can't get away from your identity. You have to allow Bogdanovich to shoot the three at a higher rate. Donovan Mitchell, and I want to make sure we're fair when it comes to Rudy versus Don, because I do have some criticisms for Don. He did have a nice game last night, 34 points. Once again, I maintain that Donovan player is the best player in the league at having a big game and
Donovan
feeling,
Mitchell?
yeah, Donovan Mitchell having a big game and feeling like he didn't really do too much. He had 34 points last night, and it didn't really feel like he did anything. He made a couple of threes, and you're like, all right, Don's doing what Don does, but this isn't like he's taking over this game. But he ends up with 34 points, a couple of assists, a couple of rebounds, and has a nice game. So
Yeah.
I just think the impact these guys are having is very different. Again, Don's 34 points didn't feel as heavy on the game as Kleber's 25, which is crazy to me. So to bring it full circle, I agree with you. The drive and kick thing hasn't really been present, and I do think that's on Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell. They have to initiate that. But I think overall the Jazz are in a good spot. It's not like you're down 0-2 or you made some big mistake or you suffered some crazy injury. You're in a good spot going home, and I hope Jazz fans appreciate that, because if you win both, now you're up 3-1 heading back to Dallas.
Yeah, and the thing that's so surprising to me is that there is so little belief in this team. And the thing that's surprising to me is the things that we've talked about on this show for 2 years that are reality now, whether it is the defensive shortcomings of this team and the fact that they are one of the worst perimeter defensive teams in the NBA because, simply put, they lack athleticism. And when the Dallas Mavericks have nobody inside the three-point stripe, there is no answer for the Utah Jazz. They do not have a way to combat that. And I think this is what I talk about with Rudy. Rudy is a one-dimensional player. If you put him in the middle of the paint and you try to force the Mavericks to play, shoot three basketball, guys like Jalen Brunson, guys like Maxi Kleber, Dorian Finney-Smith, Reggie Bullock, those guys are happy to do that. If you go zone and you try to force them to penetrate, you have no way to defend that. So if you're the Jazz, you just got to do your best to get a hand up. And you have to, in my opinion, work as hard as you can work defensively, impact their shots the most you can, but you got to have your own identity offensively. You're allowing what the Mavericks are doing offensively to impact the way you play the game offensively.
Yeah.
And it makes no sense to me. I look at some of the team numbers in this game. The Dallas Mavericks shot 47 threes. You shot 29. And you were only 11 of 29. You lost this game because you only made 11 threes.
And if you headed into the game, if we'd have read both of those stats but didn't tell you which team took 47 threes, you'd have guessed it was the Jazz.
Yeah.
And that's the real surprising thing. Heading into game two, I felt like the adjustments were, I love Quinn, but the adjustments in the execution in game two was not good. I mean, again, not shooting the threes, running, literally not just that the players gave it to Rudy, but running a full-on set, being intentional about getting him the ball on the block.
Rotating the ball to the left side of the floor.
Yeah.
Having him rotate to the left side of the floor and having Mike Conley lob him the ball. It's unthinkable. It is almost unforgivable that you ran those plays. You want to give Rudy the ball in the high screen and roll for a handoff? Okay, I have no problem with that. But I just don't know how many more times we can say it on the show. You're not going to get a good result when he dribbles the ball. You're not. He is, if you want to give him the ball when he's got position on a guy and he doesn't have to dribble, okay, I'm good with that. Mm-hmm. When you want to throw him the ball outside of the paint and ask him to make a move, you're going to turn the ball over. You're saying you're okay not scoring points. And I know that sounds harsh or what have you, But you understand that when you give him the ball in those situations, you are not going to score points. And in this day and age, giving up 110 points, you cannot do that in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You just can't. And then to come back and not answer, that's how you lose games. I don't know. I don't want to belabor the point. I certainly don't want to. It does not need to be a Rudy thing, but you're not a victim, Rudy. Like, I mean, the quotes about him saying if it was any other player not named Rudy Gobert, I win the Defensive Player of the Year. You don't. The guy that won the Defensive Player of the Year in Marcus Smart is on the best defensive team in the NBA, and they were certainly the best defensive team in the NBA the second half. And I think a lot of people assume that Defensive Player of the Year is who's the single best defensive player. It's rarely about that. This is, if you look at the two other guys that beat Rudy Gobert, who finished third in the balloting, he didn't finish second or a close second. He was a distant third.
Yeah.
It was Marcus Smart 1 and Mikal Bridges 2, and those are two of the best defensive teams in the NBA.
Yeah, and I think the message that was sent through this year's Defensive Player of the Year was that it's no longer just about rim protection or being a big that can do what Rudy does. I think the clear message that was sent is that perimeter defense is now at an all-time premium because of where the league is going athleticism-wise. And it's so funny, obviously we're in LA, we're at our family's house, we're watching the Brooklyn-Boston game on Saturday, and there were a couple comments made about how fast the game is now compared to how it was, let's say, 10 years ago. And I think that plays right into the Defensive Player of the Year conversation, because guys like Mikal Bridges and, Marcus Smart and whoever else you want to point to who can guard the perimeter and can handle a 5 on the switch, those are the guys that are at a premium. It's no longer good enough just to rim protect and to affect the game that way. And don't get me wrong, you see Rudy's impact on a nightly basis for this team. You saw it last night on the
block on
end.
Green.
Well, like the block on Green, you look at Dinwiddie, who gets past Rudy, but then, does not go up because he knows Rudy's going to cover that ground. Like, those moments are what pro Rudy Gobert people point to, and I don't disagree. But when we talk about Defensive Player of the Year awards and everything, let's not sit here and say that this guy should have 5 Defensive Player of the Year awards, because that's what I see all over Twitter. Oh, well, he should have 5, and he's he's the great. I saw one tweet that said he's the greatest defensive player the league's ever seen, and that's just not true, man.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for Rudy Gobert in his game. The Jazz are not putting him in positions to succeed. They're not. And again, this stuff with Rudy's back to the basket, it's not his fault. It is what he's being asked to do, and it's a huge mistake. I mean, but I think that the decision-making there to post him up is a product of the drama that we've seen on this team all year long. I mean, I think Rudy Gobert, as we've reported here repeatedly, there's chemistry issues with Rudy in that locker room. There's no doubt about that, and he has made it very clear he wants the ball. But again, for the contingent of people who say Rudy Gobert needs the ball and you got to give the ball to Rudy and he's the best player on the team, and how do you still feel that way this morning? That's what I don't understand. After these first 2 games, he has been a 0 in the fourth quarter of both of these games. And I think when you look at how the Mavericks won that game last night, they just shot the lights out. But it wasn't Rudy's fault necessarily. Jalen Brunson had one of those games that so many people love. It didn't matter who the Jazz put on Jalen Brunson. He was scoring the ball.
That motherfucker don't miss, man.
And I'm not saying that Donovan is blameless here, because he's not. But there's only so much anybody was going to do last night to stop Jalen Brunson. I mean, Dinwiddie, too. I mean, Dinwiddie missed 3 wide open layups. Inexplicably, just misses 3 wide open layups. Is that Jazz defense, or is that Spencer Dinwiddie just blowing wide open layups?
And I think it's also important to note that last night was a must-win game for Dallas. You lose this game, now you're 0-2 heading to Salt Lake, and you don't even have a chance really. I mean, obviously you have a chance, but there is an opportunity for the Jazz to close out at home, and you can't have that if you're Dallas. So I think last night there was no question that Dallas was playing with a sense of desperation. They knew they had to win. That's why you saw the level of effort that you saw. But again, the thing that just concerns me is getting contributions from guys like Kleba when they don't normally perform at that level. I mean 25 points out of him is surprising. But again, when you really break it down and you look at, all right, well, that game out of Terrence Mann was surprising too. But if you really look at it, is anybody surprised if an NBA player can knock down 7 to 10 out of the corner when they're wide open? Well, no, probably not. So that's why I say the Jazz are going to have to come with some sort of an adjustment defensively. And offensively, they got to get back to who they are. I mean, this nonsense with just getting away from your identity, that's not what should be happening in the postseason. This team should be driving and kicking, and preferably they'll drive, they'll kick, and they'll swing it to get an open look on the weak side of the floor. That is what I would like to see. And the only thing I would say offensively is about Rudy is I did like the set they ran where he had his heels facing away from their basket. He had his heels on the free throw line. They got it to him, and then he kicked it right back out, and they got the ball moving. That led to a basket. That led to good opportunities, and that's what I think offensively this team needs to do a lot more of.
Well, and a couple of the other numbers that I think really stand out, you look at the fact that the fast break numbers should really scare you. We talked about this, what I guess it was last Friday we talked about this, was that last Thursday, excuse me, we talked about the fact that the Mavericks were going to have to get out and run. They did that last night, 16-3. The Mavericks won fast break points. You look at the other thing that really stood out was the whining and complaining with the officials by the Jazz last night. The Utah Jazz were 17-20 from the free throw line. The Dallas Mavericks for the entire game only shot 13 free throws.
Yeah.
And the Jazz got the majority of the calls. I at some point you got to stop talking to the officials. I don't know when and how and what it's going to take for the Jazz to understand that, but getting technical fouls and whining and complaining, you got to stop. You got to stop doing it because it really is too much for me anyway. I think it's hurting you, right? And when you continue to struggle in the fourth quarter, it's almost always you complaining to the official. The fourth quarter is called very tight. They want the players to make the plays. And I think if you're the Jazz, you just got to keep attacking the basket. You got to get back to drive and kick and pick and roll. And this team, Donovan struggles in the fourth quarter so mightily because it turns into one-on-one basketball. And that's why I think he really struggles in the fourth quarter. They stop running consistent sets. And I don't know why. I've got to believe that they've seen this on tape and they just don't adjust to it. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. All right, let's get some of your thoughts in here because I see so many people commenting. Always appreciate you guys being here. Tanner Plummer first in. What's up, Tanner? Good to see you. Edgar Garcia, how you doing? He says, well, good morning, players, or should I say good morning, casuals? Exactly.
Thank you.
And Garcia's here. Spencer Morgan says, it's the way they lost. So many uncontested threes. Well, I mean, it's remarkable how unathletic this Jazz team is. And it's on display against teams like the Mavericks who don't run bigs. When you run a full-time small ball lineup as the Dallas Mavericks do, it makes the Utah Jazz very susceptible to what we saw last night, which was ball rotation and ball movement, and the Jazz just don't have the athletes to adjust to that.
Yeah.
And the thing that I would point out again is if Spencer Dinwiddie was wearing a Jazz uniform instead of a Mavericks uniform, how different is this series?
It's 0-2 in favor of the Jazz. I mean, they have 2 wins here, and I think that I just think they're a more dominant team. I mean, again, you look at like Clarkson last night, and really in game 1 as well. I mean, both games he's contributed. But I look at Dinwiddie and I say, hey, this is another Jordan Clarkson, except he can start for you and be pretty reliable. I do admit that I was definitely let down by Dinwiddie in game 1. I felt like he just didn't have a good game, even though he
played tight.
Yeah, like he had, I think he had like 18 to 20 points, but it wasn't like classic Dinwiddie. Even last night, I felt like he was playing his ass off, but it just didn't translate. As you were saying, he missed several wide open layups, and I don't know, it just didn't quite translate yet. But again, I look at this series going to Salt Lake, and I say Dinwiddie is a guy that's gonna have like 25 a night for them to win in Salt Lake, because you have to figure the Jazz are going to roll out with 40 to 45 threes at home. I just have to think that they get back to that. And I wouldn't be surprised if Game 3 they blew the Mavericks out and won handily, and then in Game 4 it came back to the middle a little bit, and the Mavericks won heading back to Dallas. That's honestly what I think will happen. But I don't know. I just was surprised, man. I was surprised to see this team roll out and just be completely different than who they've been. And I think it was an effort to make an adjustment, and I can understand that, but there's a line there. And I think, no matter who you are on the Jazz, like no matter if you're pro Rudy, pro Don, if you think this team is the greatest thing since sliced bread or whatever, we can all agree that this team has big success when they shoot the three ball, or excuse me, when they make the three 20 times a game and they shoot it 40 to 45 times. That's where they need to be to win.
Yeah, that's the thing that should really upset Jazz fans is this team changed their identity in this game. I mean, the Utah Jazz went out of their way to not shoot threes.
And I know that sounds kind of heavy. They changed their identity, but that's really what happened. I mean, this is a team that is literally marketed as a 3-and-D team. Hey, we're going to shoot a bunch of threes, and we have the defensive player of the year on the other end. So good luck. We've heard the Donovan and Rudy quotes of pick your poison, right? I mean, that's what this team tries to be. But I think there's this dynamic at play where the Jazz and that coaching staff, Quinn Snyder and company, understand that they need to use Rudy offensively, more. They've got to get him involved more. But I don't think it's as simple. Unfortunately, it's not as simple as just throwing it to him. You have to get him in the right positions. And I also think that's incumbent on Rudy too. Like, understand, hey, my game isn't on the block. My game is bowling somebody in the restricted area and sealing them and then getting the ball.
I don't understand why you don't just run pick and roll with him, force the Mavericks to switch, and then drive him to the basket.
Because he's going to get fouled.
Drive him, have Rudy set the screen, and then rim run. From the top of the key, go right to the basket, take the smaller player down there and seal him as you've been doing. Then throw him the ball.
Yeah.
Don's done that. I mean, certainly Mike Conley's done that.
Yep.
Why now are we trying to get him the ball in a situation? And I think he's down to, somebody tweeted last night, he's down to 17%. 17%.
Yeah.
Of plays where he dribbles the ball turn out productively for the Jazz. When Rudy takes one or more dribbles, 17% they get a positive outcome. 17%.
It's rough.
That's 83% failure rate.
Yeah.
Why would you run that? Well, I don't understand that. It's incredible.
Well, I think what they're saying, I think what they're saying is, hey, you're 7 feet plus, 7'1" or whatever he is, and they don't have a big. We should be giving it to you. And logically in my head, I'm like, well, yeah, on paper, I guess, but look at this guy's skill set. Listen, Rudy doesn't have touch. Like, he doesn't have a decent handle for a big. He doesn't have touch around the rim.
Rudy Gobert has zero footwork.
Yeah.
He cannot move his feet in a way to position his body between him and the basketball. So a guy like Maxi Kleber has no problem defending him. You'll notice on that turnover where they lobbed him the ball in the post, that play had nothing to do with Maxi Kleber.
Yeah.
Rudy Gobert just simply dribbled the ball out of bounds. It had nothing to do with Kleber.
Yeah.
Other than Kleber happened to be the guy standing there. Rudy doesn't have the footwork to put himself in position to succeed.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
You're not that guy. You're not Joel Embiid. You are not. If you notice the Jokic's, the Embiids, look at last night Draymond Green playing the 5 against Nikola Jokic. Perfect defense, and what happens? Jokic gets ejected on a double technical.
Yep.
That's what Rudy cannot do. Rudy whines and complains at the officials, so he doesn't have the relationship, then wants the call or the benefit of the doubt when he's on offense. You're not going to get that benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
You're just not. So it drives me crazy. It drives me crazy. Funky Orient says, when the Jazz won game 1, but a close game, I felt they needed to do better because it only means that you're in trouble even without Luka. You're not in trouble in this series. You're exactly where you need to be. You went to Dallas and you won a game. Now you got to come home where Dallas historically has not played well at the Viv.
Right.
Just come home and handle your business. Get back to shooting the 3. Get back to being who you are. You got 2 days of rest. They don't play till Thursday.
Yep.
Get back to being who you are.
Well, and look, I understand the logic behind the comment. You know, hey, like these were tight games. No Luka. You figure if Luka plays, all right, maybe that puts Dallas over the edge. But I also think you got to understand that if Luka plays, this team's not running with their hair on fire and getting all the looks they were getting. I mean, all those transition threes are not happening if Luka's on the floor. The game is, I mean, I know he's only one player, but the truth is the game is completely different when Luka's on the floor when he's versus when he's not. So I actually, you know, respectfully, I have to disagree because I think that there's no telling what this game would be if it was the Mavericks at full strength. I still think it would be a really tight game. I don't think Dallas is like far and away better than the Jazz when they're at full strength. I think these two teams out of any playoff series, East or West, are the two closest teams head up. Like even Boston and Brooklyn. Like the Boston and Brooklyn series is just two juggernauts who have a ton of talent hitting each other in the face repeatedly, and whoever gets the ball last is going to win the damn game, as we saw. This series with the Jazz and the Mavericks is more like, okay, not super talented teams, and it's going to come down to who turns it over less and who gets more free looks. And so if Luka was on the floor, yeah, sure, he'd have 40, but that means that guys like Kleba aren't going to have 25. So I don't know how that plays out exactly. But what I can tell you is Luka will be damned if he doesn't make an appearance in this series.
I don't think he will.
Well, I
don't think he will. I think, in my opinion, and I love that, I think it was Holly Rowe tweeting how Luka looks like he's walking without a limp. Like, what does that mean for a guy with a calf injury?
Yeah.
Like, why would you risk him in this series? You're not going to win a championship this year. And they've essentially said this as much. Jason Kidd said they're going to do what they have to do to protect Luka. Why would you risk him in this series? It just doesn't make you're clearly capable of beating the Jazz without him.
Yeah.
You have home court for a reason. I don't know, man. I think, are the Mavericks capable of winning in Utah? Absolutely they are. Yeah, they can come here and win a game. It's going to be incumbent on the Jazz. The Jazz will be their own worst enemy in this series.
Yeah.
When you keep throwing the ball to Rudy and he tries to finger roll the ball up onto the rim, why are you not dunking that? You know, like that's what you don't understand.
I mean, it sounds like the team just needs to get back to basics and keeping it simple. Like whether we're talking about, you know, finger rolling it versus just dunking it home, or whether we're talking about running sets to feed Rudy versus driving and kicking like you know how to do and like you're really good at, because this team is really good at drive and kick. Like, it just sounds like they need to get back to basics, and sometimes that does happen to teams where they overthink it. So again, like I said, I won't be surprised when they shoot 43s in game 3. I just won't.
You can't have Mike Conley go scoreless. You can't have Jordan Clarkson disappear in the fourth quarter. You just have to play freer basketball. I also think, by the way, I think we saw Daniel House, coming back to the middle a little bit, and this is what we worried about. You see Daniel House last night play 21 minutes, 2 points, 0 of 1 from 3, 2 rebounds, 2 dimes. And his defense was not really a factor last night.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and the other guy I think that you're kind of worried about is Hassan Whiteside, because this is a series Hassan should have a significant role in.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Hassan and you look at Rudy, and you're like, all right, well, these guys should be having huge impacts because they don't have a big. And at the same time, we're also sitting here talking about how Dallas doesn't have a big and they're running up and down the floor. So that's why I say this is, for the Jazz, this is a really dynamic matchup because, yeah, they have the size, but Dallas has the speed. What good is size if Dallas is beating you down the floor and getting to the look before you can set your defense? Hassan, I love the guy, but this is where you need guys like him to kind of step up and come into the game and have an impact, even if it's just picking up a couple of rough fouls, like go and beat them up a little bit or something.
And this is what the thing that bothers you so much is look at the impact that they got from Trey Burke. Trey Burke, I think, played 5 minutes in this game, but he hits a three, like he contributes.
Yeah, you think he didn't have a point to prove last time?
Yeah, he gives you a rebound, he hits a three, he runs the offense a little bit to give guys some minutes. That's all you need. Like Mike Conley, the thing that drives you crazy is you're paying the luxury tax for a guy to play 22 minutes and go 0 of 7 from the floor. Like it just the mistakes of this summer are killing you right now. Spencer Morgan, good morning to you. He says, unless Quinn is actually coaching Rudy not to step out and defend those shots, he has to be incredibly frustrated, and he's not. We've talked about this. They do not coach Rudy to play drop. They don't. Rudy just knows, I think, that he cannot defend the three. I think he realizes that they will go right around him, and that's happened to him so many times this year. I agree with you. Neville 93 says, you think the Jazz would win this series? And good morning, boys. Good morning, Neville. Yeah, I'm not shaken by this. I am shocked how many Jazz fans are like expecting the Jazz to lose this series. I today, after game 2, do not expect the Jazz to lose this series. I don't. I think you're getting great contributions from Bogey and Don offensively. Like, again, I think Don's got to be a better, more willing defender, but he's giving you what you want offensively. The surrounding cast, the depth on this team is killing Donovan. It's killing. I think it's absolutely hindering Rudy Gobert from winning Defensive Player of the Year. The supporting cast on this team is not good enough. It truly is not good enough. Could not agree more. These post feeds to Rudy need to stop. Quinn Snyder and Donovan Mitchell can't let him bully them into running these post plays for him. I think that's exactly right.
Yeah.
I think that's what's happening.
Yeah.
But you know what? It exposes Rudy for what he is, which is a one-dimensional player. I mean, he's a defensive player. That's it.
Yes.
And his highest, best used offensively is rebounding. I mean, second chance opportunities and
he did that last night. I mean, he had several of those where he had tipped it back out to the perimeter and they got another possession. And I think he's quite good at it. But I couldn't agree more with that point about him being upset that they won't give him the ball and hey, you got to allow me to get some touches and like that definitely goes on. And I think that it's just unfortunate that Rudy doesn't have any sense of a little push shot or just the understanding of how to use his shoulder to move a guy. Like the Dallas broadcast was talking about how Rudy needs to be tougher. He needs to be more brutish in his approach. That he's soft. And I couldn't agree more. I think there were so many times I'm like, dude, just go up. Like, hey, you rebounded it. Go right back up. Make them foul you, which is the other thing I think we have to talk about. Why is this Jazz team not trying to get Dallas in foul trouble? Who do they have coming off the bench? Kleba, I don't think is a guy you're like, oh, man, he's coming off the bench every night and giving you 25. We know that's not the case.
No.
We know that they don't have a plethora of guys coming off the bench who are going to give the Jazz trouble. So
it was frustrating that Dinwiddie got to 4 fouls and they never attacked him.
Yeah.
Like it was was shocking.
Dallas attacked Conley, didn't they? Dallas went right at Conley, didn't they? So that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that Quinn is doing a bad job, but sometimes I'm like, Quinn, dude, this is so obvious. It's right here. Go after the guy. Make him give it up because he's going to take the foul or he's going to allow you to go right up because he can't take the foul.
Yeah, I just don't know. There's not a fix for this, but let's be honest. You went to Dallas. You won a game on the road.
Yeah.
You took home court advantage away.
Yeah.
3 of the next 5 games are going to be played in Salt Lake City if it goes 7. There's every reason to believe the Jazz will win this series. Like, I just don't see any reason to panic here.
It's going to take – listen, if to lose this series, you guys need to understand, to lose this series, it's going to take an epic collapse at home. Like, I'm talking about – like more than what the Jazz have done in the
An
past.
absolute meltdown.
Just like a one for the ages. And I just don't see that happening. I would be shocked playing the Dallas Mavericks if the Jazz melted down like that. This is not the Suns. This is not the Clippers of last year. I mean, this is not like one of the best teams in the league. They will. I feel confident in saying they'll win this series. It may take 7, but I am confident they'll win this series.
If they come out on Thursday night and they shoot 40 to 50 threes, they're going to win this series going away. They have to shoot more threes.
Yes.
Have to. You're getting it from Royce O'Neal. Why did everybody else stop shooting threes? It's amazing to me. Jackson says everyone switches on screens and hedges the three-point shot except Rudy. That's who was hitting the three every time. Yeah, the teams continue to do that.
But here's the thing. What would you tell Rudy to do? Would you tell
attack
him to
the
go
three-point
to the corner?
line?
So you would have him go to the 3-point line.
I would have him attack the three, depending on who it is. Like,
well, of course, yeah.
And if Kleba's hitting that three, he's got to attack Kleba and deal with what happens behind you. Rudy can do one thing. That is either hedge the paint or go attack the three-point shot. I'm tired of watching the Jazz get beat by Golden State because Poole and Clay are hitting open threes. I'm tired of all of the open looks from three for the opponent.
Yeah.
Go attack the three-point line. And if they're going to beat you with layups, so be it.
Yeah.
That, you know what?
But you take that. You'd rather have that than the repeated 3-point makes out of the corner.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. John Jackson says, rather than the Jazz donating $50 for every dunk, they should donate $50 for every wine from Rudy. We've talked about that ad nauseum. He's got to stop with the officials. Tanner says it's sad to continue to see the deficiencies of this roster. Whether or not the Jazz win this series, this roster still needs to be blown up, and I think they will. And Garcia says Quinn is trying new things at the wrong time. Edgar Garcia says, I don't even know Mike Conley was in the game last night. Seriously.
Yeah, well, because he wasn't.
Worst perimeter D in the league, and what's going to happen when they trade Rudy? And Garcia says, see, here's the other thing. Everybody keeps saying, well, they're going to get worse when they trade Rudy. So you think they're just going to trade him for like, a rack of basketballs? And I mean, if you move Rudy off the roster, you're going to get talent and you're going to get cap space. So you're going to be able to fill that void. When has Danny Ainge made a huge trade and his team is just not filled to all? Man, well, oh, wait, never.
Yeah.
You have to think about who's going to replace him.
Yeah.
Mr. E says $20 million a year for Conley. Yeah, it's a huge mistake.
And the luxury tax.
It's a huge mistake. Bringing Mike Conley back. And again, I love telling you I told you so. I warned you.
Yeah.
I'm a pimp in every sense of the word. I'm good looking.
Keep it real.
Yeah, I'm smarter than you. I've set my life up to get top. No, I'm not going to.
Pause, bro. Pause.
Yeah, I need to relax. But as we told you when it happened, the Mike Conley deal, it's going to come back to haunt you. And I think
This man was a bona fide scrub.
yeah, I mean, last night he was a bona fide scrub, Stephen A. I
0
totally agree.
points, and you almost fouled out.
Tanner says the reason Jazz fans are doom and gloom right now is because they're scared from all of the Jazz playoff collapses of the past. This wouldn't be a playoff collapse, though. Bryce Jensen, good morning to you, friend. He says, surprised to see they went away from Bogey after having success in game one.
Yeah.
Happy that Clarkson is playing decent. Sad to see the same open corner three, but that is what happens with this roster. It is. Jason Chris Law, good morning to you, JCO. Bogey should be the main guy closing games in the fourth quarter. Mitchell should never get the ball with him missing skyhook layups. Listen, Donovan Mitchell is your best player, period. Nothing else needs to be said. Donovan Mitchell is your best player. And when the game's on the line, the issue is not that Don is taking skyhook layups. The issue is that they stop running offense. They stop setting screen roll. They stop driving and kicking. Don's best use late in the fourth quarter is drive and kick. He's great at it. But the issue is, and I can only say this so often as well, until he becomes an elite mid-range player, and I don't care that he used to have mid-range, until Donovan Mitchell consistently dominates in the mid-range, he is always going to be limited offensively, especially late in games.
Because why do you need the mid-range? You need it because it needs to be like an old reliable thing. Hey, when the game gets tough, when adversity strikes, where are we going? Oh, that's right. We're going to Devin Booker for the elbow jumper. We're going to Chris Paul for the elbow jumper. We're going to KD for the elbow jumper. We're going to LeBron for the elbow jumper. Look at all the best scores. We're going to Jason Tatum for the elbow jumper. All the best scores now and in history have the elbow jumper at any time they want. Donovan Mitchell does not have that right now. He's got the move to create the space. You'll notice he goes to it, but he doesn't make it. And that's the thing.
Yep. Casey Finlinson says Mitchell and Conley get more contested boards than Rudy. There is a stat on contested boards, and Rudy Gobert's contested rebound percentage is not great. And I'm not complaining about his rebounding even a little bit. The guy's the best rebounder in the NBA, in my opinion. But his contested rebound percentage is not great. I would agree with that. George Mesquia says, I want to see Donovan Mitchell defense. I think a lot of people do. Tanner says, also, we need to talk about Rudy's missed dunks. It was embarrassing, but hilarious at the same time. Yeah, he missed 2 wide-open dunks.
Somehow.
Shorted them. Don't know how.
And then tried to finger roll.
Mesh says, that was a very winnable game, and I just wonder at what point will Donovan take over a game like that? Brunson can't outplay you like that if you're that guy. Well, I don't disagree with that, but I think Brunson also had a really hot Maxi Kleba. I think Dorian Finney-Smith. I think Spencer Dinwiddie. I mean, this Jazz team is very limited. You need driving kick to bogey on the wing. You need driving kick to the corner. Like, I'd have been setting up Mike Conley for a corner 3. I'd have been running driving kick, run a set that gets Mike Conley a 3-point shot.
That's what Donovan Mitchell should be doing. He is a playmaker. He's not the best scorer in the league. I mean, he is the best scorer on the team, but like his highest best use to me is playmaking. Get guys in good positions. That's what they need.
Yeah, I agree. Teddy Wayman, good morning to you. He says that game was so frustrating. Yes, it was. Which sucks more, Rudy's missed dunks or Conley's missed floaters? Mike Conley in the I think he's in the low 20s now in field goal percentage in the paint. It's brutal. It is brutal. And Garcia says, I'm sure Quinn is feeling the heat and in panic mode, so he's trying new things that'll ultimately fail for obvious reasons. I don't think he's on the hot seat at all. I think Quinn Snyder, if he wants to be, he'll be the head coach of this team next year no matter what. So Mr. E says, but Rudy shoots 70% from the field. Yeah, exactly right. Rudy Sanchez, instead of going up for a dunk, Gobert wants to finger roll and misses every time. He
doesn't have touch.
I will agree with that. Jesus Christ destroys atheism.
Well, welcome to the show.
I will say Rudy's block when he rejected Josh Green was just beautiful. Let's appreciate because he does those things, but he does need to add some more.
God bless.
He's a great defensive player in the paint, at the rim. Rudy is the best defensive player in the NBA at the rim. Anyway. Gabe Ledley says, morning, my guys. What's up, Gabe? Good to see you. Tanner Plummer says, you guys are forgetting that Hardaway didn't play either. Yeah, he's out for the year with a foot injury.
Yeah, we didn't forget. He's just not a talking point.
He's not there.
He's out. I mean, it just is what it is.
Yeah, James Knight says, if the Jazz keep them out of the paint so regularly, it takes care of the drive and kick. Well, you've got to get Donovan Mitchell driving and kicking. And the other thing that's awkward is, am I the only one that looks at Bojan Bogdanovic trying to attack the paint and like trying to drive the ball to the basket? And he's getting the benefit of the doubt on a lot of calls, as by the way is Rudy. Man, Rudy Gobert gets a lot of calls. But the turnovers are what's killing you because it's allowing the Mavs to get out and run.
Yes.
The turnovers.
Can't have it. You can't have it.
You just can't. Brandon Whiteside says, Rudy choked like 3 alley-oops. He did. He did. Jeremy Bolton, good morning to you. Hope the headband fits well today. And Garcia says, fully healthy, Jazz should be up 2-0 against any undermanned team. No excuses. I don't disagree with that. BB says, can we ever play a different lineup? Bogey cannot rotate. Like, who would you put in instead of Bogey? Because I think what you're seeing is the lineups are changing.
Yeah.
I think you're seeing that you're getting, as we said, you're getting Royce and a number of different guys out there, including Daniel House, together.
And I think you're seeing a lot more Don and Clarkson together too, which I personally really like that lineup. I love the, Clarkson, Don, Bogey, Rudy, and then whoever,
Royce
whether it's Royce or House or whoever that fifth person is.
But what did we say would happen in this series? I mean, you're playing you're essentially playing 8 guys.
Yeah.
Because Hernan Gomez, he played 7 minutes last night.
He's a filler. I mean, you're just playing him fill minutes.
You're playing 8 guys in this series. That's really it. Because am I the only one that's surprised Rudy Gay's not getting any run at all in this series?
Yeah, is he still alive? Is he even on the team anymore?
No, and this is supposed to be your small ball addition.
This is supposed to be the guy that helped you in this series.
He's not getting any run at all. You're playing Clarkson, Whiteside, and House, really. And if we're honestly assessing, I mean, you're playing Clarkson and House. Like, Whiteside plays 11 minutes. Hernan Gomez plays 7 minutes. Your rotations are O'Neal, Bogey, Gobert, Conley, Mitchell, House, and Clarkson.
That's fucking interesting, man.
That's really who's playing the bulk of the minutes.
Yeah.
And when you get nothing from Mike Conley, it's going to be very difficult to win games. It just is.
I mean, if we had said, man, Mike Conley's going to put up a goose egg in the postseason, I mean, would you be surprised?
I'd be stunned.
It's shocking.
I would have smacked the taste out your mouth.
Yeah?
If you'd have said Mike Conley would have scored 0.
Go ahead and try me then.
Yeah, I wouldn't try me either. BB says House and Gomez were playing way better in that game. I mean, what did you get from Daniel House last night? I mean, you got some tenacity defensively. He always brings hustle, and you appreciate that. But I think you also saw that he over-rotated defensively a couple of times.
But the defensive portion is not, like, when I say, hey, what did you get from the guy? I ask that question from a place of, okay, on top of what he's already doing. I mean, defense is what his purpose in life is, but the 3 ball is what you need out of House to make him like the X factor.
He is the exact example of what you need, but you need him to be 3 times as good as he is. Why does Daniel House fit so well with the Jazz? Because he brings you length and athleticism.
And he doesn't ask for the ball.
But he can't really score on his own. And he's fairly limited. Defensively, he's fairly limited. You need guys, and this is what I say about Houston, like the Jalen Greens of the world, or the Mikal Bridges of the world, or the Dinwiddies, or the list is long of long athletic wings who can attack the basket and can defend.
Yeah.
Like, I would have voted Mikal Bridges Defensive Player of the Year if I'd have had a vote, but I'm just some podcaster who's thirsty to be back on the radio.
You're casual.
According to the locals.
Yeah, the locals.
Right.
The locals.
So I don't get a vote. But I'd have voted Mikal Bridges Defensive Player of the Year because he can lock down your best player, and he shoots the 3, and he gets to the basket, and he's a great rebounder, and he plays in transition.
Yeah.
I mean, he's everything you want in a player. It is not surprising that Villanova team that featured Jalen Brunson, that featured Mikal Bridges was so good. It's not surprising at all.
Yeah.
Big Dog O-Town, what's up? I said Big Dog O-Town.
Right, Big Dog O-Town.
Shout to Mobamba. Thank you.
Yeah.
Says, see how Finney-Smith put the clamps on Don. He really did. He really, really did. Yeah, I agree with that. That's what a long athletic does, exactly what the Jazz need. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Pink Man says Clarkson was hot. Why not let him finish? I think Clarkson, it's a little surprising that when Mike Conley's struggling so much, Clarkson and Bogdanovich didn't get the ball more.
Yeah. I think, look, Jordan Clarkson has a ceiling on him in every game. Like, you can't, even when he's hot, you have to... You got to be really careful about how long you leave him out there in playoff games specifically, because the diminishing return effect is very quick. Like, he could go 5 of 5 from 3 and 8 of 8 from the field, and then he'll go 0 of 8 and 0 of 15 from the field. Like, it's a very quick step off a cliff for, 15, 20 shots type thing with Clarkson.
By the way, I was wrong. Boston, Philly is not, or Boston, Brooklyn's not tonight. There's a couple of series where I'm just not that interested.
Yeah.
Like Phoenix and New Orleans. Phoenix should sweep New Orleans.
Yeah. That shouldn't even be a contest.
Miami, Atlanta I just have zero interest in that series.
On to Cincinnati.
Yeah, none.
Yeah.
Now, Memphis and Minnesota.
That's my series, man.
I mean, I know that we don't get much right on this show ever.
You're casual.
Pretty sure I told you to watch out for Minnesota. I mean, I don't know.
Where are all the people who are like, oh, you guys are idiots? Minnesota's terrible.
Rudy Gobert needs the ball.
Yeah.
He's the best player on the
Yeah,
team.
Karl Anthony Towns sucks.
Fucking pricks.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. So that's how it's going to be.
Minnesota's pretty good.
Yeah.
Karl Anthony, or excuse me, Ant.
Yeah, Ant, please. Thank you.
Shut up. Anthony Edwards is a hell of a player right now. Like, he is.
Coming out.
By the
party,
way,
man.
did you see Joel Embiid last night? Just fired up.
Yes.
That team's pretty good, too. Just so you know.
Yeah.
Who's winning the East?
I
Gotta take
want to say
Boston.
Brooklyn.
Nah, you got to take Boston.
Yeah, we'll see. I think the thing about Boston is that so the thing about that Boston game was you're in Boston at home.
Boston.
It took a broken play at the buzzer to win that game.
That was a hell of a play by Marcus Smart.
but still, you're at home. Brooklyn is not nearly 100%. No Joe Harris, like they're missing several guys off of their bench. Like
Kevin Durant was shitty. Didn't play well. He choked.
You know, like
he was
didn't have a
very
good game.
he was very Mike Conley in that game.
Yeah, I mean he only had 30 or whatever, but you know that might as well be zero for him.
He was 1 of 5 from 3 with 23 points.
Okay, cool. 23 points. That's better than
Sucks.
none, right?
It's
like
terrible.
Like my point is they won by 1 point at home in game 1, and Kevin Durant did that. You really think that Kevin Durant's not going to put up a 40 or 50 piece in this series?
The only thing I'll ask about Brooklyn is why are they playing Dragic more than Patty Mills?
Yeah, don't get it.
Is
I don't
Patty
get it.
Mills injured? I mean, I have to think.
He played in that game. I don't think he's injured.
Well, he's only playing 12 minutes and scoring 3 points, and he's only getting 1 3-point attempt.
Yeah, it's not. That's what I'm saying. It's not. I'm telling you, Brooklyn did not play nearly their best basketball in that first game, and they still only lost by 1, and they still chopped down a 15-point deficit that Boston had built. That's why I'm telling you, like, Boston may win the series. That may happen, but I'm telling you, at some point, this Brooklyn team is going to wake up. I mean, it's going to happen.
Yeah, they'll wake up on the plane ride home from Boston.
Yeah, hey, maybe. Maybe.
I mean, I'm just saying, you know. I think the Suns are winning a championship. They're by far the best team.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not close. And my guy Book, I mean, I just don't know what else I can say.
This is the real reason you didn't do a show yesterday, right? Because you were recovering from the, you know, all the activities after that Devin Booker performance.
Yeah, my forearm still hurts.
Yeah. You know?
He scores 25, 4 of 8 from 3. Chris Paul has 30 in that game, 21 from 8 and 11 from Bridges, 13 from Cam. I mean, we rolling now.
Wait, I thought you said we.
Yeah. We rolling now. I'm on the team.
Oh, you are? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah, size 3X jersey.
Wow.
We're on the team, man, you know.
That's fucking interesting, man.
I lift.
Nice, dude.
I lift.
Nice.
You know. I play Jay Crowder minutes now.
Okay.
This man was a bona fide scrub.
You know. Why can't Gobert develop some post-up moves, Pink Man says? Because it's not as simple as just like, okay, well, why don't you guys go work on that side court? Develop some low-post move for the game tomorrow night. He's got to do that in an offseason. And last offseason, Homie Slice was playing in the Olympics instead of taking the year off. And
Yeah, he was getting silver medals because KD torched him.
Wow. Okay. Caruso will bring not 2, not 3, not 4 chips to Utah. Hey, if he was on this team, you know. Suns, Bucks again, Teddy Wayman says, no, please. I hate Milwaukee.